it's a really cool kind of historical thriller that will keep most of the people seeing it on the edge of their seats and allow you as an audience member to make your own judgments about especially the ending and what it all means. And you don't get a lot of that. I mean, my take on it is that it's not, doesn't spoon feed much to people, but it trusts that people can figure things out for themselves as they watch it, and that's okay. It has an action movie quality to it at times, and a thriller quality, and I think that's enticing to me to be able to actually direct something that does that on the stage. Because, often you don't see that. I mean, and that's not a criticism of drama. It's just, I think, a relative truism. Most of the time you're going to a play, you're not seeing something that's, covert military action set in Antarctica with crazy things coming at them from the outside. It has a movie quality that I enjoyed, but without kind of just trying to shoehorn a movie script onto the stage. As to why I wanted to do it, both for myself and for the Bricks and for many other reasons, is that it's a new play. It's a new world premiere, and you don't get a chance to do that very often. To kind of have a hand in the creation of a new work this way. And we had the ability to do that when we did the reading and the workshopping of it last spring, and to continue that process, you don't get that option very often. I mean, it just doesn't come along. And so that's really, really interesting to me, to kind of help be a part of creating a new piece of art from the ground up in a lot of ways. And you just don't get an opportunity like that too often, and I'm really excited to have it. A couple things. I think one of them is the actual staging of the show itself. I mean, it takes place in Antarctica. You have to be able to give the impression of them being in Antarctica while you're in a little black box theater in Madison, Wisconsin. So there's a ton of technical aspect work that's going to have to get done, and done at a high level, to make sure that the story is believable. So, people actually start to feel like, without going so far as to having kind of, weather vision in the space where you're blowing cold air on people, but they need to get the claustrophobic feeling that these people are having in Antarctica, because they're locked up together the whole time. I think from an acting standpoint and working on that side, I think there's some significant fight work that needs to get done in the show. And I think that is a big challenge, because it's got to look realistic, and you don't have a lot of time to do that. The costume and the figure and makeup for the figure is going to take a little work, because it's period, and also has to look like somebody that's been on the ice for 100 years, if that's possible. As far as the rest of the costuming and things go, I think it's fairly straightforward, although it's not like you find military fatigues just hanging everywhere that match what we need. But I think the figure is a real challenge for the costumer and makeup person, but one that they'll enjoy. It can't just be howling wind sounds. It's got to be, you've got to create something that makes people feel the weather outside, even though they're never going to feel it, because it's important that how cold and awful it is outside those doors, because it makes that claustrophobia even more intense.
Yep.
Because they're not just in there because they have to, they want to be. They're in there because there's no choice but to stay in these small quarters that the three of them are in. Like, to go outside is death, for the most part, unless you're properly prepared, and even then it can be death. So you have to give that impression, and I think the way you do that is through the lighting and the sound for the most part. Because you're never going to open the door and see the wind and snow outside. But everyone's got to know that it's there. And I think that's a real challenge for Rick and Mark, who's the sound designer, and the lighting designer, which I have no doubt they'll rise to, and that we'll all rise to. But it'll be a challenge. And I think it's one that everybody is... It's kind of cool that you get to do that kind of thing, too. It goes back to the movie thing. Public support for a play like OATESLAND is vital, because money is vital to making it happen. There's a lot going on in the show. There's a lot of stagecraft that needs to happen. a lot of lighting plot work that needs to happen, a lot of stage construction, set design. It's not something you just throw together with a few rehearsal blocks and just give the impression of a set. It needs to be fully realized. So from one standpoint, that's vital, because without the support, we wouldn't have the ability to fully realize the show the way it deserves to be realized. Secondarily, that support also helps us get the word about the show out to as many people as possible. And that's important not just because I think it's a good play, but because it's a new play created by a Madison-based playwright. It's high-quality local art that there's just, you don't get a ton of it, and you want to be able to make it happen when you can. And you want as many people that can see it as possible when you are able to do this. So having that support allows us to reach people in a way that we wouldn't be able to reach. It also allows us to make sure that we're providing compensation to the performers and the other artists and people that are involved in the show. And it's important to the Bricks Theater that we produce high quality work, and sometimes that just takes money.